Welcome everyone to the return of the Straight Talk podcast. I am your host, SESvince, and this is episode number 2. On today's episode, we're going to be covering the first round and, predicting the first round of the NBA playoffs. And we're going to be discussing the draft lottery results that happened this past Thursday. But if you're a new listener, we're basically a variety podcast where we talk about a wide range of things, whether that's basketball, wrestling, anime, video games, music, the works. Like I mentioned, this is the return episode. We took a bit of a hiatus, a sabbatical, if you will. There's a lot of stuff that happened, about 8 months long of a wait, but we are back with episode 2. And on today's episode, I'm going to have two guests, two good friends onto the show. Maurice Conso, who was on here for the first episode, we talked our NBA All-Star predictions. And given that today, this episode is dropping on 8/24, aka Kobe Day, he's the biggest Kobe fan I know, and I felt like it was only right to have him on the show and talk basketball with me. I'm also going to be having the debut of Tyler Edwards. He's my friend. He works with Black Label Pro, which is an independent wrestling promotion in Indiana. So go ahead and check them out. They're really, really good if you like pro wrestling. Nice, solid wrestling promotion here based in the Midwest. So I'm going to bring him onto the show. But he's also a big basketball fan. I've seen him engage about basketball. He's a huge jersey fanatic. He has a wide range of collections. So you can go ahead and hit him up. So we're going to be talking to both of them. Going to be talking basketball. But with that being said, let's not waste any time, guys. Let's get right into the podcast. I have my friend Tyler here. We're going to be starting off with the Eastern Conference. Tyler, how's it going, man? Thank you for joining me.
Pretty good. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So Tyler, you're a Hornets fan, right? But you're not from Charlotte. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I am a Hornets fan. And yeah, I'm not from North Carolina, didn't grow up there or anything. I know a lot of people, that's their first question when I mention I'm a Hornets fan, since I've grown up in Indiana, lived close to Chicago. So most people around here are either Pacers or Bulls fans. Mm-hmm. So I usually get the, why the Hornets? That's so random.
Right.
But when I was a kid, I was probably only 3 or 4. I got into basketball really early on. And saw highlight tapes of the Hornets when Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson, and then especially playing NBA Jam, that was my go-to.
Nice.
So I've been hooked. Loved the logo, loved the jerseys back then. They had one of the better jerseys in the 90s. So yeah, stuck with them. Unfortunately, through today.
Yeah.
Haven't had much success. Recently, they lost Kemba too, so
I mean,
yeah,
it's tough, man. Trust me, man. I'm a Bulls fan, so we're having a rough go of it too.
Yes.
We finally got some good luck. They got rid of Jim Boylan, so hopefully some good fortunes for us. So you mentioned you like Kemba, and he left. He's with the Boston Celtics. Do you still support the Celtics, or you're like, boo, Kemba, you left us?
No,
where's your stance?
I'm still 100%. I'll support Kemba. I definitely get where he was coming from, because I know Charlotte didn't even want to give him the max contract offer. Mm-hmm. They were kind of trying to lowball him, and especially they're not in the best cap situation right now too. Right. So he didn't really have that much help, and it's not like there was going to be any immediate relief anytime soon. I think their cap space doesn't clear up until at least next offseason. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of see with him hitting his prime now, why he wanted to leave and go to a better situation. Right. So, I mean, I can't fault him for that. So, yeah, I still support him.
Do you keep up with the Celtics game, kind of from afar watching Kemba, or just in general, do you watch the entire league?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to watch whatever and try to keep tabs on most of the league, just so I have an idea of what's going on outside of Charlotte. But yeah, I've definitely been keeping more of an eye on Boston this year since Kemba is there. But yeah, I'd say even last year and stuff, I was definitely familiar with Tatum, Brown, the two of them, especially in Boston. So
yeah, did you get a chance to catch up on the first round game that they had against Philly?
I don't think. Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that. The only stuff I was seeing was Indy and Miami today.
Yeah. So Well, let's kick off with the first round matchups, given that we're already talking about Boston. They're facing against the 76ers in the first round. 76ers, they don't have Ben Simmons, and unfortunately, Gordon Hayward rolled his ankle, so he's going to be out for 4 weeks approximately. Do you have a favorite here in this matchup, and if so, how long do you think this series goes?
Yeah, I would say even with Hayward being out right now, I'd still give the advantage to the Celtics. Simmons being out for Philly is definitely a big blow to them. But even before Simmons got hurt, they've really had trouble all year. I know they were doing great at home, but especially in the bubble, that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they were definitely having problems even just trying to figure out a good, solid starting five for them. So I do think Philly might give them some trouble, especially with Hayward being out, but I'd still say Boston probably win in 5 or 6.
Okay, that's fair. I would agree with you, man. I'd say Boston in 6 is a little bit fair. I wouldn't even be surprised if this goes 7, just because both teams are missing guys, key players for their offense. But I saw the game. I was still at work, but I caught like the highlights of it. It was a pretty good game. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown legit are like growing in front of our eyes and are two big pieces for that franchise. Honestly, I'm just glad they were able to keep Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown together. And they still got, like you said, they still got Kemba, and I don't know about the dynamic of Horford and Embiid still. It's kind of ironic how the team that Horford leaves to might get eliminated by his previous team. I think that's kind of ironic if you look at it. Yeah, so
definitely would be, because I feel like I think especially during the regular season, like anytime Embiid and Horford were on the floor together, they just weren't gelling that well, and it was better either Simmons and Embiid on the floor or Simmons and Horford. Like all three of them on the court didn't work.
Yeah.
So they could always figure it out, but I mean, if they couldn't do it all season, I doubt something would come together.
Yeah, I think even like either before the bubble or like during the bubble, I think they had Ben Simmons started power forward to change things up. So that was a bit off. But overall, man, I think we're both in agreement here. I think the Celtics advance here. Like, it's going to be a fight because it's not going to be an easy victory for them. But 6 or 7 for me.
Yeah, 100% with that.
Yeah. The other game, the final Eastern Conference game that took place today. So, spoiler alert, we're recording this on Tuesday. Miami Heat versus Indiana Pacers. It was a little closer than I thought. They pulled away towards the end. TJ Warren has been balling. I don't know what they're feeding this man in the bubble, but he is going off.
Oh, man, it's been crazy. Like, I don't remember really, like, even before the bubble, like, during the regular season, like, I don't think he was really, like, playing at this level. And, yeah, since the bubble matchup started, like, he has just been on another level.
Yeah, I think he's just like a standard role player kind of guy. He's not going to give you anything special. He'll be a guy that can maybe drop 20 on you on a good night. But this is definitely a surprise. The Pacers are missing Domantas Sabonis, and that's a key piece for their offense. Probably their best player. A lot of people are arguing between him and Victor Oladipo in terms of being the best player. And then Brogdon came in, him and Sabonis were like, who's going to be the all-star between the two of them. You do live in Indiana. Do you support the Pacers in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's not like I have anything against the Pacers.
Right.
It's definitely nice seeing how well they've done the last few years, especially because I was definitely somebody who thought when the Paul George trade happened that they were just going to go straight into like tanking, rebuilding, trying to stock up some high draft picks. So it's definitely been a nice surprise. Oladipo being hurt, that definitely kind of killed their momentum a little bit. But like you said, Sabonis and Brogdon, they stepped in. Both have really stepped up this season. And especially having Warren playing like this right now, I think it's definitely making up for Oladipo being out that whole time. And I don't know, has he been playing in the bubble?
Yeah, he's been playing. I don't think he's back to being his normal self, but he's up there. I think the shame throughout the season, not only like the season being stopped midway, but also the fact that you didn't get a chance to see the pairing of Victor Oladipo and Malcolm Brogdon together, because now you're also seeing TJ Warren blossom, and Miles Turner, even though he's not the superstar all-star type player that they thought he could be, he's still a solid like rim protector and like a front line for their defense. I think they're gonna have like a great future. If Sabonis was here, I'd be really tempted to pick them over the Miami Heat. However, I'm gonna say that based on Jimmy Butler's performance, I think the Heat are like 10, 11 deep. I think that in this kind of like scenario in the playoffs, it does wonders for a team. It's good to have those kind of bodies and fresh legs. I'm going to go ahead and say Miami gets this in either 6 or 7. And just a quick side note, I'm just glad that we're getting the TJ Warren, Jimmy Butler matchup because they've been like exchanging words all season long. So I'm glad we got this matchup.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the matchups I'm excited to see during these playoffs. I think I'd have to agree, especially with Sabonis being out. I do think it'll still go 6 or 7 games. I think Indy can give them enough of a fight. I don't think it's going to be like an easy give me series for Miami, but I do think ultimately Miami will pull it out in 6 or 7.
For sure, definitely. Unless, like, God forbid, there's some kind of injury that happens with Miami, like. Right. But again, if Sabonis was there, I think I'd pick Indiana just because they're pretty solidly deep there. So let's move on to the other game that took place on Tuesday. Milwaukee versus Orlando. I don't know if you get a chance to see the game or watch the highlights, but are you surprised at all that Orlando, like, and specifically DJ Augustine, just went off on the Bucks and got game 1 on them?
Yeah, I mean, Milwaukee and Orlando was definitely one of the series I thought was just going to be like a straight 4-0 clean sweep. Like Orlando would be out of here in no time. Especially DJ Augustine. Like, I know he's a solid veteran. He's been around for a while, but like definitely was not expecting him to go off like that.
For sure. I mean, if any team truly has home court advantage, it would be the Orlando Magic.
Right.
Given that they are in Orlando. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me that the Magic went hard in the first game and got game 1. I think they did that against the Raptors last year in the playoffs. They have a tendency of having like a really good game and then just catching like a better team off guard. And I think even Evan Fournier, one of their bigger scorers, had an off game. He wasn't having the best game, at least to start things off. Honestly, regardless of this, I still think Milwaukee gets this. Are you familiar with the douchebag sweep?
No, I'm not.
So the douchebag sweep is when you let the opposing team get the first game and then win 4 in a row. So that's what it's called, the douchebag sweep. So I think that's what we're gonna get. I think we're gonna get a douchebag sweep here from Milwaukee. How about you, man? You agree?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Especially with Orlando getting this first game, Milwaukee kind of came into the playoffs not on the best note because, like, I know Giannis got kicked out and then suspended the last bubble game after he headbutted Mo Wagner from the Wizards. So it seemed like they weren't really on doing their best towards the end of the bubble. Might have been kind of taking off a bit since they knew they had the first seed locked up. So I'm sure, especially today after dropping the first game and probably coming out a little flat, it definitely woke them up. And yeah, expecting them to win in 5 too.
And the crazy thing, if I'm not mistaken, I think Giannis had like 30 plus, like 17 rebounds and like 7 assists or something. He had a really good game, but I think he had like a 9-minute stretch where he couldn't get a bucket. So I think that really hurt them. Yeah. It's unfortunate that I'm trying to blank on his name, but what's the guy from Orlando that got injured and tore his ACL?
Geez. I know who you're talking about.
Is it Jonathan Isaac?
Yes.
Isaac. Yeah, if Isaac was here, I feel like they can maybe get another game or 2 and make this go to 6 or 5. But like, well, it would already go to 5. Make it go to 6. Right. Do you think there's any chance Orlando gets one more game from Milwaukee, or do you think they're gonna be like more focused the next 4 games going forward?
I would say, like, especially after seeing today's game, I do think there's a chance they could steal another one, and this could go 6. I'd say mostly it just depends on Milwaukee. Right. If they're focused and they're on top of things, like, I don't see it happening. But then again, especially with this bubble being, I definitely say there's a chance.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the final first round matchup in the Eastern Conference. We have the defending champions Toronto Raptors versus the Brooklyn Nets. Unfortunately, Kyrie and Kevin Durant aren't playing, or else this would be a very more interesting series than it was. I think they handled the Nets for the most part pretty well. What's your take on this series? Like, are you hyped? Are you hyped for this series, or does it feel like a formality that Toronto's going to get this?
I do feel like it's a formality. I will give Brooklyn credit. I know coming into the bubble, they lost, besides Kyrie and Durant, like 4 other guys before. So, like, they were just pretty much trying to pick up anybody they could to fill out the roster. So the fact that like they didn't go 0-8 and like they actually have been putting up a fight, like I know they gave Portland a good run at the end of the bubble there.
That was a great game. I was
Yeah,
watching that live at
yeah,
work,
that
and
was
I
a
just
lot of
gave
fun.
no fucks about like the customers. I'm like, I'm watching this game.
I don't blame you, dude. Because yeah, like Levert, I definitely think this has been a great opportunity for him to kind of just like have free reign. He has nothing to lose. Like
Hmm.
really, that's how Brooklyn is playing right now. I mean, nothing to lose right now, so they can kind of just do whatever. So I do think like it'll be a competitive series, but I definitely see Toronto taking this in like 4 or 5.
Fair, fair. I agree. I say like the shortest. I think Karis LeVert is going to help the Nets get at least one game out of this series, and it's going to go 5 minimum. Again, it could have go 6 for the most part. I'm just honestly, I'm surprised to see Toronto where they at. A lot of people thought they were going to blow the team up after Kawhi left. And honestly, they've been overperforming. Guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam have really stepped up, and they've like just grabbed guys that nobody even heard about, and they're key members in the rotation. That's just really, really good right there.
Yep.
So, that's for the most part. If I'm not mistaken, I think we agreed on every single matchup. We got
Yeah.
Toronto advancing, we have Milwaukee advancing, we got Miami, and then we also got Boston. Do you have a favorite to come out of the East?
Yeah, I do have to say, even though Milwaukee is the 1 seed, they have Giannis, and I think it probably most likely will be a Milwaukee Toronto matchup in the Eastern Finals. I do got to go with Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
They've definitely, like you said, they've been overperforming, and that's even with pretty much every guy in their starting lineup has missed a significant chunk of time during the season,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't really miss a beat when like Saul was hurt. I know Lowry missed some time. I think Pascal missed some time too. But yeah, now that they have everybody healthy, I think they're probably the best team, like the sum of the parts, kind of like Detroit in '04.
Yeah.
Like just a really good team and gels well together. They know their roles. And yeah, I wasn't expecting it, but I definitely got to say I picked Toronto as my favorite.
Okay, Toronto. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely surprising. So then, would a dream scenario for you be Kawhi and the Clippers going to the finals to face off against the Raptors in the finals? I think that would be a great
Yes,
narrative going into it.
absolutely. That would be like one of the best possible finals matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure even fans in Toronto were kind of skeptical of how well they would do this season once Kawhi left. Obviously, like he was the big reason they won last year. I'm sure a lot of people were expecting them, if they even made the playoffs, to maybe be their usual Toronto selves in a first round exit. But I think they have a great chance this year. And yeah, it would be great to see Kawhi go up against Toronto.
For sure. Okay, so I guess like final question in terms of the playoffs, do you have a favorite to win the championship and go all the way?
Yeah. Honestly, I think since Toronto is my favorite to come out of the East, I do have to say Toronto is my favorite to win the finals, only
Really?
because I think whoever comes out of the West, they're going to have a lot harder time
Mm-hmm.
making it through that conference. Like the East, I feel like Milwaukee and Toronto, the first round isn't going to be too much of a challenge. The second round, like Miami and Boston might give them a little bit of trouble, but I still think it'll really only be that Eastern Conference Finals
Mm-hmm.
matchup that'll be like a really tough 6 or 7 games. But like LA or the Clippers, like even their first round matchups aren't easy. Like the Clippers had a lot of trouble from Dallas last
Mm-hmm.
night, even.
Yeah.
Portland's coming in hot. You have either Houston or OKC in the second round for LA, I believe, and then blanking on who the Clippers would have to face. But yeah, and then if it's a Lakers Clippers matchup, I
Yeah.
definitely see that going 7. So
For sure.
like whoever makes it to the finals from the West are probably going to be a lot more tired. They'll have played more games. They'll have been tested a lot more. So I think whoever comes out of the East will definitely be the fresher team.
Right.
So
Hey man,
Yeah,
it sounds like you're going to be
I'm
a
gonna stick
very
with Toronto.
popular
Oh, it sounds
man
great.
down in Canada, man, up there in Canada. I feel like you're going to be a very popular man. Are you sure this
Yeah.
isn't an Ethan Page like vote right here? Because he's Canadian, so you want to like root for his home country
No, no, no.
team.
As
No.
much as I love Ethan, no, this isn't. No, he doesn't even like basketball,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not playing
He
favorites
should
to
he
him or
should.
anything.
I guess my
Care
only
less.
concern with that whole situation would be I don't think even with how well the Raptors have been playing this season, I don't think they have a go-to guy in the playoffs and especially in the finals to get them a bucket when things slow down and the offense stops and gets stagnant. I think regardless of that, if there's a situation where they face off against either the Lakers or the Clippers, you have a LeBron, you have Anthony Davis, Kawhi, Paul George, and even guys deeper in that LA Clipper bench. You have guys like Lou Williams that can step up and get some big shots. I'm not there with you about Raptors win the championship. However, that'd be kind of a cool story to see them win back-to-back titles, especially the second one without Kawhi. I don't see it happening, man, but I love your optimism.
I get that. Hey, I'm optimistic. They've already, other than Kawhi, I mean, all those guys were in the finals last year. They have the experience. I feel like even though they don't necessarily have a go-to guy,
Mhm.
they've been in that situation, and I think like I have faith in like Lowry and Van Fleet. I feel
Mhm.
like they could get a bucket. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm being a little overly confident on
Right.
Toronto, but hey, if it happens, I
You heard
call
it
it.
here first. You heard it here first.
You're here
You
for
can quote. They can quote you on it. Okay, man. So
yeah.
I just got like two more questions for you before we let you go.
All right.
Who's your favorite to win the MVP? Even before the bubble and then after the bubble, because obviously the season's over since we're talking playoffs. Who do you got as your
Right.
MVP this season?
I'd say I don't know. Are the bubble games like in consideration for the MVP, or is it just strictly before the bubble?
I
You know
think
that?
those could be consideration too. I think it's only like the play-in tournament games that the Blazers and the Memphis Grizzlies had. I think those are the only ones.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I'd say before the bubble, I know those last couple weeks, LeBron was definitely making a good case and closing the gap, but Harden, like always, he's definitely in consideration. He
Mm-hmm.
was putting up big numbers this season, but I'd still have to give it to Giannis again. He definitely has still been carrying Milwaukee, even though they do have some great pieces around him. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think without him, there may be like a 3 or 4 seed at best, and he definitely makes the huge difference for them.
Oh,
And he's
honestly, I
still
feel
playing.
like they'd be like a 4 to 6 seed if it wasn't for Giannis. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there would be a huge difference without him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I feel like LA, like, they'd still have Anthony Davis. So I know the Western Conference tough, but like, I definitely think Giannis means the most and has definitely been playing again at a superstar level. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely, even though I know I can't even remember the last time somebody repeated MVPs, but I definitely have to give it to Giannis again.
I think that was LeBron when he won those two back to back in Miami, and then before that it was the two back to back in Cleveland,
Okay.
and in between it was the one Derrick Rose MVP in 2011.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised had that man won 5 in a row if he stayed in one team. He just was so hated in
Oh,
2011, and Derrick Rose is balling.
yeah.
I'm gonna. Man,
Yeah.
dude, man, we're agreeing on just about everything except for your finals, like the champions
Right.
and shit. But I'm gonna give it to Giannis. I wouldn't be surprised or mad if they give it to LeBron, but I do feel like Giannis has been tearing it up. He's stayed at that same level consistently year round. He does it on both ends of the court, and without his team, they wouldn't be as high in the playoffs as they are now. And then if you take LeBron off the Lakers, I still think Anthony Davis gets them up there, and they still got like another guy. So yeah, I agree with you there. And funny enough, speaking of the Lakers, since this episode will be dropping on 8/24, aka Kobe Day. Last question for you, man. What's your favorite Kobe memory?
Um, that's a good question because there's so many good Kobe memories.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna play a little bit of the recency bias and probably say his last regular season game.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially around that time, I wasn't really sitting down and watching like any full games from start to finish
Yeah.
unless it was playoffs. Especially now with social media and everything, it's so easy to just catch highlights of stuff. But knowing it was Kobe's last game, I definitely sat down and watched the whole thing, and seeing him just go on the tear, I'm just feeding him the ball, him putting up 60. Like, it was the perfect way to go out for a regular season game, since, the team was pretty much rebuilding at that point. But yeah, I definitely think like it was an appropriate ending to his career. There's obviously plenty of great moments you could go with, whether it be regular season, like the 81-point game,
Right.
Playoffs. There's plenty of material there. So yeah.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, quickly, one Kobe memory that I always remember, and it's one of my favorites, is when Matt Barnes tried like fake him out with like the inbound pass, and he didn't flinch, even though later on it was revealed it was like at the side of his head, and didn't actually go straight for him. I kind of wish
it bugged me so much that they revealed that. They should have just kept that hidden.
Yeah,
like,
for our pro wrestling fans out there, they broke kayfabe with that. They broke kayfabe with showing that clip.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, man, I agree with you, man. That 60-point game, especially knowing going into it that Shaq said, "Oh, I dare you to go for 50," and then he went ahead and dropped 60 on them. I think it was a perfect victory cigar to cap off his career. It was definitely great, and too many memories for him to like even like start listing off. But hey, Tyler, thank you for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate you. I love talking basketball with you. Definitely had to bring you back on as the playoffs continue, and then whenever we have some wrestling talks, we can go ahead and have that too. Is there anything you want to plug, social media, anything that's coming up you wanted people to know about?
Yeah, I'll plug my Twitter and Instagram. I am at Prince_Petty_ on Twitter and Instagram. And then obviously, since this is like you talk wrestling to you, Black Label Pro, the indie company I help out with, we're running 2 shows. This coming Saturday on August 22nd. So when is this dropping though?
It'll be dropping the 24th Monday. So yeah, it'd be past that. So it'd be after the Monday after. Yeah.
Okay. So our shows will have already happened, but they'll be up on independentwrestling.tv. I would definitely recommend checking them out. I'm sure they're going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I would definitely recommend following Black Label Pro's Twitter and Instagram, because we've already announced a couple people for our tournament in October.
Yeah.
So we definitely have some big stuff planned for the rest of the year with that. And otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to plug.
For sure. So like I said, variety podcast here. So if you like pro wrestling, you're in the Midwest area, you can go ahead and check out Black Label Pro. I've went to a couple of shows. They're pretty good. I like them. But yeah, man. Again, thank you for being on the podcast. I'm glad to talk some basketball finally with some good friends, man. It's great catching up with you as well, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, and I'd definitely be down to hop on again.
For sure. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Western Conference playoffs. We're going to be predicting those first round matchups, and to do so, I have my childhood friend Maurice Console, aka Reese. How's it going, my man? Thank you for joining me back on the podcast.
Good to be back. Feels like it's been a good 2 years since I've been on the show.
To be fair, this is only episode 2, and the first episode we didn't drop since like January, so it's been an 8-month hiatus, man. But we're back. We're back. We're here to talk hoops. And before we get things started, I'm gonna go ahead and let the people know a little bit about your NBA fandom, man. You're a Lakers fan, even though you're here from Chicago. Tell us why you became a Lakers fan. Like, did you grow up a Bulls fan, or did you convert, or have you always been a Lakers guy?
Nah, originally I grew up watching the Bulls because that's what was on growing up in the household. So obviously I gravitated towards Mike a little bit. But then once I saw him play Kobe, and what year was that? 96, 97. And the first time I saw Kobe hit the fadeaway on Mike, it was instantaneous. I was like, bingo, that's my favorite team. That's my favorite player. And it's been Lakers and Kobe since I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys had a rough patch there with the Lakers. You've been through some up and downs, but overall, you guys been a little bit more successful than the Chicago Bulls since the turn of the millennium, man. So we're going to be talking about the Lakers, and, might as well just start them off with their first round match against the Portland Trailblazers. They had to face off against the Memphis Grizzlies. They had an amazing game with Brooklyn Nets just to even get into that playing game with Memphis. But they're here. They got a first round matchup against the Lakers. Who do you got here, man? I mean, it's pretty easy to say who you got in terms of a favorite, but let us into your thought process on this matchup.
So I have the Lakers in 6, mainly because we don't have Avery Bradley. So Dame and CJ are going to go nuts on our guards. Just we don't have anyone to defend those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Melo's their best wing and only real wing defender, and that's just not enough to stop LeBron or AD for that matter. So that's why I see it going 6, because the Blazers are balling and we're missing Avery Bradley, so it goes 6 for that reason alone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
just remind me here, because I'm not too aware. Funny enough, I'm out here hosting an NBA podcast, but I don't know the information. But do you know if Avery Bradley is just injured or he's choosing not to play? And if he is injured,
he chose.
So he chose not to play.
Yes, he chose not to play in the bubble. I'm not mistaken. He didn't want to risk. Catching the virus and bringing it home to his wife and his kid.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So he chose not to play.
For sure. Okay. That's going to hurt the Lakers, for sure. I feel like he was a key piece for them perimeter-wise, because they need someone to guard the perimeter. Hopefully they just don't face off against guys that have good guards. This should be fun, though. I'm glad Lillard is in the playoffs. He should be in the playoffs. They went deep. Didn't they go into the West Finals last year, if I'm not mistaken? It was either the West or the semifinals. They went pretty deep.
Yeah, conference finals, if I'm not mistaken. They got to the conference finals.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine getting to the conference finals and then not even making the playoffs the following year? That should be hilarious to me.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
It would be. So let's talk about the other LA team, the LA Clippers. They faced against the Dallas Mavericks. They took game 1. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and the boys, they got the win. A little controversy there, given the fact that Porzingis got a cheap technical foul, and then he got into it in the scuffle trying to defend Luka Doncic and got kicked out of game 1. Do you feel like that would have changed the narrative had he stayed in, or was that a win for LA regardless of what happened?
No, the Clippers were going to win that game regardless whether he got ejected, stayed in, sat on the bench, fouled out. The Clippers were going to win that game regardless. But I do credit him for defending Luka. He did the right thing there. I don't think he should have got ejected at all. So that ref was a little trigger happy with the ejection, but I still had the Clippers winning that game with the Porzingis there.
Gotcha, for sure. So, would you say that you got the Clippers here, obviously, right? And if so, in how many games?
I had the Clippers in 5 here.
Clippers in 5. Yeah, that's fair.
I had the Clippers in 5.
That's fair. I like what Dallas has here with the combination of finding Luka in the draft. Trading for him, to be honest, because they had the 5th pick and they traded up for the 3rd pick. Then they went ahead and traded for Porzingis. I think they have a nice solid team here. I feel like they're missing a piece or two to take them to the next level or the next echelon of playoff teams. But man, the Clippers are just too deep. I feel like they got a little bit of everything. I think their only weakness would be size up front, and that's about it.
Their bench is a little weak. If I'm not mistaken, in game 1, the Clippers were up 18-2 in the first quarter or something like that. It was like watching a video game or something. Paul George went absolutely bananas. Kawhi got wherever he wanted to. Even with a hand up, he still made tough shots, and I don't see the Mavs even. Yeah.
I think
Mavs
they can get
lucky
2.
to get 1 game.
I think they can get 2. But Matt, I think 5 is a solid, safe bet. Would you be surprised at all if they sweep the Mavericks?
Yeah, I would be a little surprised. I don't see them sweeping them,
Okay.
but I do see them losing in 5.
Okay. So let's move on to the next matchup then. We got Denver Nuggets taking on the 6th-seeded Utah Jazz. Man, Donovan Mitchell just balled out in that first game, and it just was not enough. He dropped 57, and he still couldn't
Yeah.
get the win. Obviously, they're down 2 key pieces. I think Mike Conley's still out for them. He should be coming back by game 3, if I'm not mistaken, given on the reports I saw. But they're also missing Bogdanovich, which is another like key shooter / scorer for them. And
True.
just Denver Nuggets, like with Michael Porter Jr. just going off, Jamal Murray going off, and Jokic out here hitting threes too. Jokic like slimmed down, got into like fit mode, man. He got fit for real. I think my favorites here are the Denver Nuggets, but this could be like a 6-7 game fight just to get out of that first round, because I don't think Utah's going down without a fight. They're not going to roll over for Denver.
Yeah, I don't see them rolling over at all. I see it going 6 games for sure.
Gotcha.
But ultimately, I have Denver winning.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised they
That
took
back-
so long for like Michael Porter Jr. to like start or get like big key minutes for the Nuggets? Because he's out here, he's playing well, man. He's great. He's a great basketball player. I feel like he could legit be their second guy, like and surpass Jamal Murray like within a year or two. He's that good.
I don't know about that. Jamal Murray is next level. I don't see him surpassing Jamal Murray in a year or two. But I do see him fitting in pretty well with this team if they're able to keep this core together. But
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely a critical piece.
Yeah.
Right timing.
For sure. Perfect timing. He came in and started balling. Like, he's no TJ Warren, man, but he's out here balling. he's getting some buckets. It's a shame so many teams passed up on him in the draft, but you know what? And not only that, but like Denver went ahead and took a chance on him. But Bol over here, he's getting some shine. He's getting some shine.
He is. He's actually playing a lot better than what I thought he would be playing. I didn't expect that out of him at all.
Nah, man. Here's the thing about the Nuggets. They have their 2 key guys in Murray and Jokic, but they also got Michael Porter Jr. that they drafted late, like at the end of the draft lottery. Then they go ahead and have like a Bol that fell to them, and they're over here just picking up these guys that just like a lot of people don't want to take a risk on, but because they're a solid team without those guys in the mix right now, they're able to take those risks, and they're just paying off with both of them playing well right now.
Absolutely.
For sure. So let's move on to our final matchup. And honestly, I think this is the one matchup of probably the entire playoffs I'm most looking forward to, at least in the first round. The Houston Rockets taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And isn't it funny how the team that traded Westbrook for Chris Paul, and everyone was assuming that the Thunder were going to blow it up, they were going to go for the lotto, and play for the draft. They're here in the 4-5 matchup against the Rockets. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised with the way Chris Paul has been playing and the way that OKC team's been playing if they get an upset here and beat the Houston Rockets.
You know, it's sad. I wouldn't even call it an upset if OKC beats the Rockets, mainly because Chris Paul, he makes this entire team better. Just look what he's done so far. Makes the entire team better. Every single player that's on the floor with him, he makes better. Harden doesn't make anyone better. Westbrook doesn't make anyone better.
Right.
They're one-man shows, and they're only going to go as far as the refs are going to allow them to go, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Without that whistle, I don't see them winning anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Their small ball lineup is interesting. It's entertaining for sure, but it's not going to win them anything.
It feels too gimmicky. It feels like a gimmick, like it's not something that's like legit strategy that can win you a championship. It's cool for the regular season, but it's one of those things you gotta bust out in spurts, kind of like the Warriors were doing with their death lineup or whatever they were calling it. You can't start off the game with PJ Tucker having to guard Steven Adams. I don't care. You can't do that. You need some size. I feel like overall, this one it could be a toss up. You could talk me into OKC or Houston getting this win. I'm gonna go and say OKC wins this in like 7, and that's not because I think they're gonna win. I just want them to win. I'm going based off of personal preference, and I just want to see them get the W. And just because like I'm gonna sound like a hater for this, but I think Westbrook is not as good as other people think he is. He's good, he's great, but I don't think he's like the best or one of the best players in the league.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. I don't think you can find 10 other players better than Westbrook's starting or retired athlete who played that position. That's kind of tough right there. That's hard to find.
Yeah.
I don't think Westbrook's going to win anyone a championship anytime soon. I don't think this lineup is going to win a championship ever. This small ball lineup is something that you would try in, college. Some that
Right.
I could see Gonzaga or someone using. I don't think this lineup was built for playoffs. The game slows down, and you need a big in the playoffs. And PJ Tucker can't be your biggest player.
No, he really can't. And what's funny isn't like James Harden like doing like the jump balls for them, which is kind of funny to me. And touching on James Harden, one quick thing. It's probably a hot take here, but I don't think that man's going to win anyone the championship being the lead guy of a team. I think if he ever does get a championship, he's going to be like the sixth man coming off the bench or like the third scoring option for a team like later in his career, kind of similar to like Ray Allen with the Boston Celtics. I think that's going to be probably his best role and most likely opportunity to win a championship. Because if Melo couldn't do it, James Harden's not doing it.
True, but I don't see James Harden winning a championship in that 6-man role. I would see him winning a chip. If he were to win a chip, I would see him winning one being the second scoring option or the third scoring option. But kind of like Chris Bosh was.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Like the Ray Allen role. Like he could come off the bench and then like finish off games similar to like Ginobili. Remember, like he helped win championship and was crucial parts for those later Spurs championships. I want to say besides the Kawhi Leonard one, but for the most part, he was still their third best player, even though he was coming off the bench.
True.
Yeah. So yeah. Before we move on, man, like who you got here? Houston or OKC?
Houston should win. I wouldn't bet against Houston, but I don't know here. I think I'm gonna go OKC in 6.
I can give you some time to find a coin, flip it, and make a pick that way.
Nah, I'm on the spot, so I'm gonna have to go OKC 6 and stick with my guns there.
Okay, cool.
But Houston should win. I just don't see them winning it.
Gotcha, for sure. I mean, we were just talking about winning championships. So, who do you got here coming out of the West? Who's your favorite to come out of the West? I know you're a Lakers fan, but are they your favorite, or do you feel like some other team might get all the way to the finals?
No, they are my favorite. I have the Lakers coming out the West barely.
Barely?
But I do have them coming out the West.
Okay. And you got them as your favorites to win the championship, the whole thing?
Yes, if we can come out the West, there's no team in the East that's beating the Lakers in a 7-game series.
Okay. Interesting take there. I appreciate the honesty, man. You're straightforward with it. You're not gonna go ahead and just like censor yourself. You're a Lakers fan. You believe in them. I believed in the Bulls every single step of the way, even though they kept getting eliminated in the playoffs. I believed them into the final buzzer sound, and that's how you got to be, man. If you're a fan, you can't just like not believe in your team, you know. But the Lakers are a good team. They are a good team. They're one of my favorites too.
The Lakers' biggest threat, East or West, would be the Clippers. Get by the Clippers, everyone else is a piece of cake.
Fair.
It's like taking candy from a baby.
Cool, for sure. Quick question. Have you been watching the NBA since they returned with the bubble? And how do you feel about the whole like environment and feel of the whole thing? Are you with it? Do you care for it? Does it take you out of the game?
I haven't. It's like watching a scrimmage game, basically. It don't really make too much of a difference. as long as basketball is back, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
But is fans there or not there don't really make too much of a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only reason why I asked is because, pro wrestling, WWE, and other promotions, they have their wrestling, but they don't have fans there. And I feel like that takes away from the product. And I think with the NBA, given that they're doing like the virtual fans and they're like piping in 2K like chant crowd noises, and given that you don't need the fans necessarily to create a good game, just like look at Portland versus the Brooklyn Nets, like we mentioned earlier. They can go ahead and produce good content, and I'm just glad basketball's back. I'm okay with it. It's weird. It's still a little bit off, especially with like the sayings or like quotes on the top of the jerseys and the players' names on the bottom. I feel like there's too much going on there, but regardless, I'm just glad basketball's back, and I'm okay with it. I'm for sure good. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like what the UFC is doing. Just the NBA added the virtual fans is all.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
You still got with the UFC, you still got Bruce Buffer doing his normal ring announcement as if fans were actually in attendance and things like that. But the only people that's there is obviously the two fighters and their camp.
Yeah, for
and Buffer and the ref.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Cool.
Two different.
All right. So I got two final questions for you, man. John Morant or Zion Williamson? Who's your rookie of the year?
That's easy. John Morant.
Okay. Talk us through your thought process.
Zion hasn't been healthy, not even half this season. So there's no way he shouldn't even be in contention for rookie of the year. I personally thought he should have just set out, came back next season, and did the Blake Griffin thing, try to win rookie of the year that way. But
right.
Pelicans had other ideas, and yeah, that kind of cost them the rookie of the year for this year. John Morant has been balling out of his mind. He utterly deserves it. He took that team that far, and it sucks that they didn't make the playoffs, but hey, that's what happens when you go 2-5 in the bubble.
I think also too what hurt them is Jaren Jackson Jr. got hurt for them and wasn't able to play, and you could argue he's their second best player. If he isn't now, he will be going forward, and I think that hurt them critically. So I'm with you, man. I get the whole John Morant thing. I think what happened with Zion is even before he was in the league, like his freshman year in college, he was already being hyped up as the number one pick. Then he came into the league hyped up. For God's sake, he's gonna be on the cover of 2K21 for the PS5 for the new generation, and that man hasn't even played an entire 82 game season. He didn't even get a chance to finish his season, and he made a cover athlete. Even LeBron, who was so hyped up, I think Zion is the most hyped up athlete since LeBron James coming into the NBA, and even LeBron James, I didn't think he got a cover to like 2K11 when he was with the Miami Heat.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's just crazy to me. I like Zion. Had he been healthy all year round, and especially with the sample size we saw, he would be my rookie of the year. But John Morant was there the entire year, and I think we need to put some parameters, some rules in place, saying you got to play a minimum of these many games. You got to play at least like 50 to 60 games to even be in consideration for rookie of the year. I feel like I don't care how great you're playing in the 23 or 30 something games you play.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't even. The fact that he even played like 25 or 30 games or however many games he played and still was in the discussion for rookie of the year was unbelievable. I mean, I get it. He played like he should have been in the discussion, but in reality, he shouldn't have. It shouldn't even been a conversation.
For sure. Okay. So, last final thing, and then I'll let you go. This episode will be dropping, or is dropping, or has dropped on 8/24, aka Kobe Day. So I know you're a big Lakers guy. You just mentioned at the top of the recording that Kobe Bryant's your favorite player of all time. Bro, what's your favorite Kobe memory of all time?
Oh man, that's a tough one. There's quite a few to choose from, but if I had to go with my favorite Kobe memory of all time,
Mm-hmm.
oof, I would have to say the game where he made 12 threes
Mm-hmm.
against the Seattle Supersonics. He caught fire and he played out of his mind that game. He played out of his mind. He was pulling up whenever he even thought he was open. He was pulling up. Didn't matter who was in his face, how many people closed out, how close they were coming off the screen and roll. He
Yeah.
was pulling up no matter what, and he got the record. He was determined that game, and he showed he was just more than a slasher, more than a post playmaker.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's one thing I really liked about Kobe, like growing up, because obviously I wasn't around for Jordan. By the time he retired the first time around, I was only like 6 years old. It would have been. I think we both would have been like 6 or 7 when Jordan had retired, and we would have caught like maybe like Washington Wizards Jordan. So for me, Kobe was my Jordan growing up. He was the most complete player. He could do it on both ends of the court. He could post up, create off the dribble, slash, shoot, a little bit of everything. Just for shits and giggles, I think one of my favorites. It's not my favorite of all time, but one of the Kobe moments that I really freaking love is when the camera catches him mouthing "You're soft" to Dwight Howard after he got traded and they met up against the Rockets. I think that's one of my favorite Kobe moments. Just like
yeah,
if that doesn't embody what Kobe is, or and like everything he stood for in the NBA, I don't know what does. That was just a great moment for me.
yeah. I completely understand. My second favorite Kobe moment was when he actually baptized Dwight.
Yeah,
That's
that's when he
yeah,
was still in Orlando, right?
yeah. That was my screensaver for like the longest time. Like that
Nice.
was my screensaver for the longest time.
Sweet. So, hey man, thank you for joining the podcast. We definitely had to get you back on here for round 3 and talk more NBA basketball, or just some whatever is on the horizon. Anything. There's a variety of things. Before I let you go, though, is there anything you want to plug? Any social medias? Anything's coming up specifically? I know you're a big 2K guy. Do you want like people to like meet you up in the court or something?
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely looking for more 2K buddies to run with, because the guys that I'm running with now, they can't keep selling me. I can't keep allowing it. So hit me up on PS4, Reese 24 kills with a Z at the end of that is
Mm-hmm.
my gamer tag. And let's run some threes, or let's get in that rec or pro am. I'm
All
with
right.
all of it.
All right. Cool. Sounds good, man. We'll have you back on for more NBA talk. Thanks again, man. Appreciate you joining us.
All right.
Okay, and finally, to wrap up the show, we're going to be talking about the draft lottery results again here with Tyler Edwards. What's up, Tyler? Thanks again for joining me for this draft lottery results. I kind of felt like I had to have you back on here for this, given that both our teams jumped into the top 4, man. How are you feeling after Thursday's draft lottery results?
Well, first, thanks for having me on again, especially so soon. Definitely happy to be back on and talk about this. Yeah, so I watched the lottery live. Uh, wasn't too hopeful. I was expecting Charlotte pretty much to stay where they were at,
Mm-hmm.
given their odds. So, yeah, the second I saw they were definitely jumping up, I was really excited. And then finding out they had the third pick, I was super happy about that. Like a top 3 pick in this draft, I feel like it's definitely there's a few guys who could definitely be
Mm-hmm.
good players in the NBA. So I think this is a draft where, like, even if you don't have like the first or second pick, you're not screwed.
Unless you're like the New York Knicks, where you go from like like a very high pick, and then now you're like number 8.
Right.
So we'll talk about the Knicks. We'll talk about the draft lottery results, everything. We'll get all of that in there. But let's talk about like the betting odds before coming into this. So Golden State, Cleveland, and Minnesota both had a 40% chance to end up with the number 1 pick, followed by Atlanta, Detroit, New York, Chicago, Charlotte, Washington, Phoenix, San Antonio. It's weird to see the San Antonio Spurs in the draft lottery.
Yes. Very
Kings,
weird.
no surprise. Memphis and the New Orleans Pelicans. Obviously, the Memphis pick ended up going to the Celtics. So let's actually dive into the results in reverse chronological order, because that's the way Mark Tatum does things when when they reveal it. So number 14 was the Memphis Grizzlies, went to Boston. New Orleans at 13, Sacramento at 12, San Antonio at 11. So given San Antonio's track record of being able to find gems in like the late first round or even in the second round, I can only imagine what they do with that 11th pick, especially since they were able to scoop up Kawhi Leonard at like 15, and he was supposed to be and could have been like their franchise player going forward after Tim Duncan. So we'll see what happens. Number 10, Phoenix Suns. They're going to be getting another solid pick there, given how well they performed in the bubble. It'd be nice to add like a little bit more players there, or even assets to like trade for a bigger time player to help them out. Number 9, you got Washington. Number 8, New York Knicks. They fell so hard. We'll talk about the Knicks in a second. Detroit's got number 7. Atlanta number 6. Cleveland dropped out of the top 3, and now they're number 5. My Chicago Bulls got number 4, so the curse of landing at number 7 the last 3 years is finally gone. We're finally in the number 4th pick. In AK we trust is the same. I've seen a lot of Bulls fans saying here. So our new GM, or whatever role he has, president of basketball operations, like, it's kind of hard to pronounce his name, so they just kind of like shortened it to AK, and they did kind of like this whole like religious Jesus Christ thing, where it's like they photoshopped his head and it's like an AK we trust and shit, because he helped us move from number 7 to number 4.
Things are starting off great. So
for both our teams. Number 3, like we mentioned, Charlotte Hornets. That's really, really good for them. Number 2, Golden State Warriors, and number 1, Minnesota Timberwolves. So this is kind of big for Minnesota and Golden State, because it's just like, like Golden State does not need more pieces here, and you basically,
like, if everyone's healthy, they're I would say still, even with just Draymond, Steph, and Clay, like those 3, if you have just even like okay average players surrounding them, I'd still think that's a top 4 seed in the West if they're fully healthy. And
for sure. Like Golden State, even before this pick, I feel like they'd be a top 4 seed regardless. Because the only other teams I would say are maybe like the Clippers, the Lakers, and that's about it. Like you can say something about like Houston, Denver, but they have their flaws. And I feel like Golden State, if everybody's healthy with Clay, Steph, and Curry, you still got Draymond, and obviously Andrew Wiggins, who's been playing solidly for them. They don't need him to do anything special with them. So that always is going to be a good key thing for them. So I feel good about the Golden State Warriors. But this draft is kind of different in the sense that we don't have a consensus number 1 pick. You can make a argument for just about almost like any of the guys. So the one guy that I see a lot of people talking about, LaMelo Ball. Where do you feel like he'd land? Do you think? I don't think he'd be taken by Minnesota at number 1, given that they just traded for D'Angelo Russell. And
So that's the thing with the way this draft order played out, and like what each team with like the first few picks have, like unless Golden State tries packaging that second pick to trade for like an established veteran, maybe do something like that, like I could see Ball falling to like maybe even like 4th or 5th, or even out of the top 5, because like you said, Minnesota they just traded for D'Angelo Russell. Golden State has Clay and Steph, so maybe they take him, but I'd be surprised even if they did that. Charlotte, that's another team I feel is kind of guard heavy. They have Devontae Graham, who just came off a really big season. They also have Malik Monk. I feel like they're kind of stocked up with younger guards. Like he definitely is worth being like a number 1 pick. I could, like, if he was picked first, it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, why is he going first? But I think just with the teams that have the picks at the top, I think it's more of just a fit wise, it being an issue.
I think, look, man, I've always said this in the draft, especially if you're really high up there. Forget about drafting for fit. Draft the best player you feel is available at that spot, and you work out the kinks afterwards. So, I mean, going back to LaMelo, with Minnesota, you could do like a 2-point guard lineup almost, where you have him and D'Angelo Russell working together. And I feel like Russell and Curry were kind of working a little bit, but it's like once Clay comes in there, you can't have a 3-guard lineup and move Clay out of that position, make him play small forward. Golden State, like, they just traded D'Angelo Russell, so they can go ahead and get more wing depth. I don't feel like if they do pick up LaMelo here, they're not keeping him at number 2. They'd be trading him to another team. They'd be packaging that up. Charlotte, I would say that maybe because he has the size, you can probably play him or with Devontae Graham. They do have Terry Rozier there too, but I don't think he's like a long-term fit. He could be like a 6-man coming off of the bench, which is ironic because he left Boston trying to be a starter, and then could you imagine like he only gets that for like a year and then gets relegated back to the 6-man role for them. I see NBA Twitter really big, or especially like Bulls fans on NBA Twitter, like really, really wanting LaMelo Ball in Chicago. And I mean, it'd be kind of cool. Yes, we do got Kobe White, we got Zach LaVine, but there is some questions there whether like Kobe is a legit one or is he more of a spark plug off the bench like a Lou Williams. And I've seen him get that Lou Williams comparisons a lot, so that I think honestly you can't really go wrong here. Ideally, if I in the perfect world, I'd either want LaMelo either in Charlotte or in Chicago, because I feel like those probably could use him a little bit more, and I think he can play great with Graham. And I don't think it hinders them too much, because given in today's NBA, you can't play 2 dominant ball heavy guards on the perimeter.
Right.
And look at the success of the Portland Trailblazers. They got 2 small guards, and the one thing that LaMelo has for him is he has size, so you won't have to worry about that whatsoever. The prospect that I feel like might go number 1 is Anthony Edwards, the shooting guard from Georgia. I think he would be going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I feel like him with D'Angelo Russell, and then you have Cat still there. I think that's a great matchup there, a good fit for everybody, and he'd be another guy that can get you some buckets to help them out. He could be like that third piece for them, I feel like. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree, because like even though I think Ball could work in Minnesota, I think too just the pressure of Minnesota having to nail this pick, because I know like Cat's been kind of hinting about maybe wanting out. And I know that's a big reason they traded for Russell and made such a hard push towards getting that done, just to try to make him happy, because the whole Butler thing didn't work out. Like, they've tried to build around him, and just everything they've tried so far hasn't really been too successful. So I definitely think like the clock's running out on that, and they definitely don't want to screw this pick up. So I think Edwards would probably be sort of like the safest pick out of the top prospects. I feel like you said he'd be able to slide right in. Russell could still be the ball dominant guard. Edwards can definitely get you some points, and then they could still kind of center the offense around Cat. So
for sure, I think that'd be the same. I think that's probably the most locked for me. I mean, one thing I'm going to be doing, spoiler alert, like once we get closer to October and the actual draft, I'm going to be doing like an actual like mock draft podcast episode where we do like the first 30 picks of the first round, or like at least the lottery. So we'll be doing that. We'll get more heavy into the draft prospects as we look into them a little bit more. The one thing that it sucks is because I kind of usually use the March Madness tournament to go ahead and determine like, okay, I like this guy. I see how he plays. So we're basically just going based off of like what the little we see of them before the draft lottery. So we just basically got to go off of that. And I think that's why we don't have a solid number 1 lock pick in here, because we're just like, oh, we haven't had a chance to like really see them. Like, and we're just going based off of our scouting team. So another big name, James Wiseman. How do you feel about him? I've seen a lot of people say he could be really good. He could be like subpar. They're always like up and down with this guy. I feel like if he goes anywhere, I could see him going as high as number 2 with the Golden State Warriors, and he kind of be like a Darko Milicic situation with them, like in the 03 draft. They won't really need him, but he'd be like a guy that would be added to that squad. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be Darko, but no. Especially going number 2, I don't think he's. I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna be Darko, but I definitely do feel like number 2 would be the highest he'd go, especially since Golden State would need that guy in the middle to like lock them down going forward. Or again, like you can go ahead and just pick up whoever you feel like is the second best prospect and just trade them for like an established center, because that's what they need. Because they got Wiggins, they got Clay, they got Curry, they got Draymond, and now you just need someone to anchor the middle. So I feel like they can go with Wiseman and then they keep him if they feel like they can't get a solid trade they like. Or they go ahead and just trade Wiseman. Like regardless, I think that's the highest he can go. I could also see Charlotte picking him up at number 3 because I don't think they have I don't think you guys have like a solid guy at center for the future.
Like the front court depth has been pretty weak, and like I know Charlotte's had to rely on a lot of like veterans that haven't really ever been like more than just kind of like a starter that's just average. Nobody really get like I think Cody Zeller might still be on the team. I'm blanking right now at the moment. But yeah, like that just goes to show how well their front court.
I think Cody's still on the team. I don't think he's ever left the Hornets. I think he got drafted by the Hornets at number 9 and never left the team. He looks like he's aged because like the longer he stayed with the Hornets, he's had like a receding hairline. He's balding and thinning up there.
Yeah, he looks like he's like a 15-year vet by now, even though he's probably only been in the league for like maybe 5-6 years.
Yeah, I think it was like the year after they drafted Kemba or something.
Yes. So, yeah, like with Wiseman, I definitely think since he's somebody people are kind of iffy on, like some people are high on him, some people aren't so much. I definitely think him going to Golden State could be the best case scenario because if he does end up there and stays there, I definitely think it'd be like the opposite of a Darko situation, because I know like when Darko went to Detroit, like Larry Brown hated playing rookies. They were in the middle of a title push. So, like, he was focused on just trying to win and not really developing Darko.
Right.
And I feel like Kerr, even though they would be, like, trying to make another deep run in the playoffs, he's somebody I feel like I would trust trying to develop a rookie that was a high draft pick, even though, you know, you're in the middle of trying to contend again.
Right.
So I think Wiseman could do well if he ends up in Golden State. I definitely wouldn't mind seeing him in Charlotte because – you know, the potential is there, and like we talked about, like Charlotte doesn't really have much front court depth, so I think he would definitely get a lot of time right away, and an opportunity to sort of develop and get a feel for the game, pro level. So yeah, I'm thinking he could definitely go high. I don't think he'll drop too low. Like I can't see him going past like 6 or 7.
Here's the thing. I know we were just talking about like grab the best player available and forget about fit if you're in the lottery and you're really high up there. After the Bulls, like the Bulls have Wendell Carter Jr. and they have Lauri Markkanen, so I can't see them picking him up unless they feel like Lowry's last year was like not a fluke and it wasn't because of Jim Boylan and he's actually regressing, so they could maybe move Wendell to the 4 and then put Wiseman at 5. But I'm not a big fan of that. They need some forward depth. I like Obi Toppin as a guy at number 4 for us. If LaMelo already gets picked up at like before the 4th pick, I like Obi Toppin. The other guy I see him linked with the Bulls is the guy from Israel, Denny. I'm gonna butcher his last name. I just know it. Denny Avdija, but we're just gonna call him Denny. I haven't seen much of the guy. I can't sit here and talk to you like, oh yeah, man, I've watched some of his stuff overseas. No, he's obviously a high up here for a reason, and he's a small forward. That's actually what we're looking for. I want a small forward or like a dual wing player. They can play 4 and 3. Because we currently have Otto Porter Jr. Last year, he was riddled with injuries, and I think this upcoming year is on the final year of his giant contract, and I don't see him as a future guy with the Bulls. So I would lock that in. If LaMelo's gone, I think the only 2 locks on this team are the 4 and 5 spot with Lowry and Wendell. So ideally, get a 3 or get the point guard of the future that you feel like. If you feel like Kobe White's more of a 2 and you feel like Zach isn't going to stay on the team, and you're going to trade Zach for that number 3 spot, or you can go really small. I've seen them do this at some point. You can do a small ball lineup where you have 3 guards on the floor with LaMelo, Kobe, and Zach taking up the 3 spot, because Zach does have some size. He's like 6'5", 6'6", and so is LaMelo, and then Kobe's a solid 6'5". They're going small with 3 guard lineup, but they're all pretty big. So I can see them like busting that out. We still don't have a coach, so we don't know what kind of offense we're going to be running.
Right. See, that's why I think depending, I think whoever they hire as the coach, I think will definitely play into which player they'll end up taking. Because if they do take a coach that wouldn't be opposed and is open to the idea of, like you said, like taking Ball or another guard, so that like trying out that 3 guard lineup, since Houston even went super small this year and just
PJ Tucker at center still makes me laugh, man.
Oh yeah, it's so weird seeing that lineup still. But yeah, if there's a coach that's willing to try that out too, I could see them doing that. And then if they do end up hiring someone that kind of wants to stick to a more traditional lineup, then I definitely could see them trying to find like the perfect guy to slide into the small forward spot.
For sure. Last team we want to cover here is the poor New York Knicks. At number 8, they dropped out of the top 4. And at number 8, I feel like you lose out on like the big name talent. You're basically here just like grasping at straws, hoping that one of these like random guys there in the second tier ends up being a good guy and a solid player for your team. They hired Tom Thibodeau, so shout out to Tom Thibodeau. I really liked him here in Chicago, so maybe he gets them to play hard, but he's not the biggest guy on rookies either. So
I'd be worried if I was the player that got drafted by the Knicks, because Thibodeau's history of running his guys heavy on minutes.
I love Thibodeau, but I still think that he's contributed to Luol Deng and Joakim Noah bowing out of the NBA earlier than they should have.
Yep. On that, I think that's his one big flaw as a coach is I think he's too dependent on like just like 5 or 6 guys, is afraid to like open up and use like 8 or 9 guys, especially come like playoff time or crunch time during the regular season. I think that's his biggest flaw. But so
if the one thing I would say about the New York Knicks, if they somehow look into like an Obi Toppin or a Denny Avdija, or I'm seeing guys like Isaac Okoro, Killian Hayes. I don't know enough about these guys. Tyrese, I forgot. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to butcher it. But like these other second string guys, hopefully one of those guys are good for them. They do need a solid point guard. They need just about everything. I think the only 2 spots that are locked in is RJ Barrett, whether he's a 2 or a 3. He's going to be a wing, so they need another wing with him. And I think at center, they have that locked in for sure. And we'll see what happens with the New York Knicks. I just feel a little bad for them. I feel bad for my friend RN, because he was he's a big Knicks guy, and doesn't look good for him. So.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I do think, though, going back to what you said, I do think for teams that are lower in the lottery and then like later in the first round, I think they're not being March Madness, like a tournament this year, could be beneficial to those teams, because like, there's usually a history of guys getting hot during the tournament. That'll get some eyes on them. They're a hot prospect then come draft time, and they don't necessarily always pan out. So those guys might, if they do end up being good pros, they could slip and fall to later in the lottery as opposed to going higher because of a good tournament showing. So I think that does give teams like the Knicks a better chance to try to find somebody that can be like above average and exceed expectations where they're drafted.
For sure. Here's on the plus side of like this whole pandemic situation, at least they won't have the New York Knicks fans just booing whatever pick they get, and that turns out to be a stud like Porzingis. I still like I to this day I'm like, you really booed Porzingis because you guys wanted Jahlil Okafor, and look at how that turned out. You guys ended up losing him too on top of that. Yo, man, they're a whole hot mess. I like to compare their situation to Vince McMahon, like being seen now and running WWE. Like once the owner's gotten out of there, man, poof. I think their fortunes might turn. We'll see. But hey, man, before we sign off on this, one quick question. I'll go first. Who's your guy that you hope the Charlotte Hornets take? And obviously for me, the Bulls. I'm going to say Obi Toppin. That's my guy that I hope they take. If LaMelo falls to us, I think I'd rather have him over Obi Toppin. But if given where everything stands, I'm going to go and say that Obi Toppin at number 4 is the guy for me.
Gotcha. I think for me with Charlotte, I think I would have to say Wiseman, only because with Ball, like, I do think he could be a good fit for Charlotte, but I just think since, like, we have at least, like, Graham, Rozier, and Monk right now, like, we're better equipped at the guard positions, and since, like, the front court is just so thin right now, I think Wiseman would make a bigger impact right away.
Okay.
So hopefully, I wouldn't be disappointed if we take Ball, but if we can get Wiseman and they take him, I'd probably be more thrilled about that pick.
What if Anthony Edwards falls to you guys at number 3?
Oh,
does that change? Does that change everything? You're like, oh, forget it, forget LaMelo, forget Wiseman, give me Anthony Edwards.
1,000%, because I feel like Edwards will definitely go first or second.
Okay.
Like, I'm not even expecting him to make it to Charlotte at 3.
Right.
So.
I mean, we'll see, man. Fingers crossed. Hey, on the plus side, if he does end up in Charlotte, I think he would fit great with Devontae Graham. And also, too, they will be an official Charlotte Hornets jersey that has the last name Edwards on there. So that when you rock it, man, he'll have your last name, man. So that's a perk for you right there. I just
won't have to order a customized jersey or anything.
Exactly, man. I mean, you won't have your choice of jersey number, but hey, it's better than nothing. I need someone to draft a Delgado so that there's like a last name Delgado. I think like the Clippers had like this one guy named Angel Delgado, which funny enough is my brother's name.
Oh, nice.
But he never got any playing time. I don't think he got an official jersey. So little tidbits here and there. Like if the Bulls ever draft a guy named like with the last name Delgado, I'm definitely buying that jersey. I don't care if the guy sucks. I
can imagine. You'll be hyping it up like, he'll be a superstar in no time. Man.
Hey man, fingers crossed. Hopefully, you end up with Edwards. I think Edwards would be a really good fortunate pick for you guys if he somehow lands there. But I don't think I feel like Minnesota would be taking him at number 1.
That's what I'm thinking too. So hopefully both of our teams nailed the draft picks.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. Yes. I'm so much happier about our front offense now that Garpax is gone. So I'm feeling better about it. I'm feeling better about it. But hey, anyway though, that's the show, guys. We'll talk more about the draft. We'll get more into in-depth stuff with the actual draft once it gets closer to it in October. We'll do more of our research. Tyler, I might bring you back for that. I like having this draft talk with you. Sounds like you know what you're talking about, man.
I agree.
For sure. But yeah, man, we're going to go ahead and sign off, and then we'll pick this back up back in October with more NBA draft. But go ahead and give this episode a download, guys, wherever you consume all your audio podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. We're available just about everywhere. Check out our YouTube channel. Just search up capital SESvince. You'll find everything there. If not, you can check out my Linktree. It will be in the description down below. It's a Lintre.ee/SESvince. Take you directly to all my social medias, all the show's information. You can find it that way. And obviously, follow my friend Tyler on all his social medias as well, and support Black Label Pro. Anything else specifically? We got your social medias on the last recording, but anything else you forgetting?
Not that I can think of right now. That's pretty much the only stuff I really would need to plug right now. So
all right,
I appreciate it.
For sure. All right, sounds good, man. Thanks again, Tyler, for talking more basketball with me. We'll definitely have you back on, and thank you guys for listening in. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Straight Talk Podcast.